Hi, Dan Illman and Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Wednesday, June the 14th, race number 7 at Delaware Park. We're going a mile and a 16th on the turf, second level allowance with a $25,000 claiming option. Let's take a peek at this field. Please scan or click the QR code for race of the day access on mobile, which includes free formulator pass performances. Mike the 4, huge bigly, 5-2 on the morning line, stepping on turf for the first time since late last summer. This horse does have some speed, seems well spotted from a class standpoint.
Yeah, agree with that. It feels like the right kind of spot for him. He is a speed, though. It seems like his better races, even though he doesn't always show speed in his grass races, Dad, it seems like his best races are when he's forward. So he's got to go here, as does the one Tom Hagen.
I do agree with you. His best races have come when he gets to the front. As we throw up the Timeform US pace projector, the key to this race is Tom Hagen, because Tom Hagen is at his absolute best when he controls the pace. Now, he did not show any sort of speed in his first start back off of a lengthy layoff and a pretty salty second level allowance at Pimlico. But I think that from this inside post, if he has any speed left, we're going to see it.
Yeah, he was off the layoff last time, had a far outside post, and they didn't even try to make the lead with him, Dan. His rider just sort of took a hold of him and tried to get a spot with him somewhere off the pace. It didn't really work out. He didn't run well in there, but I think they'll be aggressive this time.
As you see, the number 2 in this race, that's Saranac, has the LP flag over his chiclet, which means that he has the highest Timeform US late pace rating. So if Tom Hagen, if Huge Bigley, if even the number 5 Helium stretching out in distance get hooked up early, it could set things up for a closer like Saranac. Let's start things off with Tom Hagen. And he ran a big race 3 starts back, his final turf effort of 2022. He just went to the front, he carved out legitimate fractions, and he stayed on. We talked about his first race at Pimlico. I think they were using it as a prep. Madison Myers trained horses have been live recently in Maryland, and something tells me that Tom Hagen's going to run a lot better at a decent price.
Yeah, maybe that last race is a bad sign for him, Dan. Personally, when I look at it, I just don't really care about it off the layoff. They didn't really try to go forward. He's going here. He's got a great post on the rail. He has really good speed. His top turf race makes him a very strong contender in here. And I feel like if he makes the lead, he could be really, really hard to run down. 10-1 on the morning line feels like a great price to me.
The number 2, Saranac, is 12-1 on the morning line, and he finished ahead of Tom Hagen in that race at Pimlico. It was his first start off of a lengthy layoff, and that was a race where just the speeds didn't seem to come back. They basically ran 1-2 around the track, and the runner-up is a useful horse who came back to run second in a state-bred stake at Penn National with an 84 Beyer speed figure. Now, Saranac doesn't have speed. We saw that from the Timeform US pace projector. Maybe he gets a better setup here, and he's another horse that should be sharper for his second start back.
I mean, I guess there's a chance this pace gets a little competitive. It would certainly help this horse. We'll see, how good he actually is, Dan. I think he's still got a lot to prove, even if he does have pace to run at. I mean, none of his starts since he's arrived stateside are particularly compelling performances. This is maybe a better spot for him, at least worth noting, his 2 wins over in France at 1.5 miles and 1.25 miles. Is this distance too short for him?
It's possible it is, and he's, again, the kind of horse that needs a little bit of pace luck, and he needs a little bit of trip luck if he's going to get there in time from the back. The number 3 is Scano, and while Scano must deal with a layoff, we haven't seen him since early October, it's worth noting that he ran really, really well off even a longer layoff to kick off his 2022 campaign. His most recent start was at Woodbine, and I thought he ran pretty well in that race. He basically saved ground. The jock decided to stay in on the stretch. I think it was a good decision. He altered course to the outside, and he ran on, finishing ahead of a horse that came back to place on the Tapeta surface at Woodbine with an 83 Beyer. I like this horse's tactical speed.
Yeah, I think there's a good trip coming. I think he just, more than anything else, Dan, I think he just faced a better field in this one in his most recent start. I thought he ran fine in there. And I also felt like he ran fine 2 starts back where he just got beat by an odds-on favorite. He really ran that day, but that favorite had to jump on him, and he just couldn't get anywhere near that horse in the stretch. But that was a good performance. He came back off of the long layoff last year in good form, and I feel like he fits right in here. He also has really good tactical speed. He might fall into a nice trip in this race.
Huge Bigley, the number 4. He's your 5-2 morning line favorite, making his first start on turf since being claimed by high percentage Robertino Deodoro 3 starts back. Now, if you look at his last 2 turf races, he was completely overmatched in a stakes race at Golden Gate Fields, a race where the third place finishers come back to compile a 5-start, 2-win, 1 second, 2/3 record with a recent stakes win at Gulfstream Park, and then a race at Keeneland where he didn't get the lead in a very tough allowance. You go back 3 starts, that's probably, I think, what we're looking at. The race at Colonial, where he got to the front, he made an easy lead, and he sprinted on home. With Tom Hagen in here, perhaps that trip's not available, but I think they got to get forward.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I think I might be a little reluctant to take a short price on him. He is the morning line favorite in this race, Dan. He can win here. He's got plenty of races that make him a really strong contender, but he kind of feels like a horse who's at his best when he makes the lead. And I have to believe Tom Hagen's going from the rail in here.
The number 5, Helium, is one of the horses in this race with a good amount of back class. He won the Tampa Bay Derby on dirt back in 2021 and then competed in the Kentucky Derby. Now, he sort of dropped down the class ladder now. He competed on synthetic in a couple of races last year. His one and only start on turf came in a very short field. He was the favorite that day. He didn't run great, but I don't want to just say that he can't handle this surface. I think from a class standpoint, this is the cheapest he's been in a long, long time. He's got good tactical speed, and he stretches out to a more appropriate distance.
All those points are fair. He's also a really good price on the morning line, Dan, so I don't really want to knock him too hard. He obviously hasn't panned out since getting off to a really, really good start to his career. He is in for the 25,000 here as they switch him back over to turf just to see what happens. He was off a little bit of a layoff last time. He didn't run well. Now they're going to switch surfaces with him and see if he can take that step forward.
The number 6, Tune In, has run very well on dirt for most of his career. He's won 10 races overall, and 8 of them have come on dirt. But it's hard to believe we haven't seen him on the turf since this race. During the summer of 2021 at Gulfstream Park, where he was the favorite in a first-level allowance, he alters course to the outside in the stretch. He's got to look at this leader in the lane, and he just can't get by. This was a very live race. He was one of 5 winners, next out winners, to emerge from this race. He's good on either surface. Maybe second off the layoff, we'll see a little more.
He's interesting switching back to turf. Obviously, he's good on dirt too, so you can't really complain about them running him on the main track so often since that turf start that we just looked at, Dan, because he's really good on that surface too. But switching back is not a bad thing for this horse. He's another one who's a really good price on the morning line, and he can be forward in here, but he doesn't need the lead.
I think the 7, Wow What a Summer, is one of the keys to this race. He's 6-1 on the morning line, and that is a fair price. Okay, his win in the Grade 2 Penn Mile last summer came when a lot of things went his way. He caught the softest of soft turf courses that he liked, and many of his competitors did not. He got a great ground-saving trip in behind the lead, but ever since that race, he's either been placed in impossible spots, he's had some tough trips like he did in that Bryan Station 2 starts back, and his most recent start, his final start of 2022, he caught a paceless race where he was wired at Aqueduct.
Yeah, and the only time since that Penn Mile that they ran him in an allowance race, Dan, or allowance optional claimer, they dropped him back from 9 furlongs to 5.5, which is just, a really, really difficult thing to do. It feels like they're finally running this horse in the right kind of a race here. Will he be ready off the layoff?
The number 8, No Need to Worry, is a kind of horse that you probably want to treat as a first-time turf horse, although he has raced once previously on the turf, because that was in the aforementioned Penn Mile against Wow What a Summer, and he just was one of those horses that probably didn't like the ground and probably was in a bit too tough against some of Wow What a Summer's competition. His recent dirt form, however, has just been abysmal, and in the form he's in right now, he's hard to take. He's going to be a big price at post time.
Right. It's fair enough to just want to forget about his only turf start so far and treat him first time turf here, just look at him that way. But his recent form is terrible, and he really doesn't have the pedigree to suggest he's going to be better on the grass.
The number 9, Who's Counting, is 7-2 on the morning line, and this horse is versatile enough to be good over the jumps and good on the flat. Here's his most recent start on the flat. This is 2 races back at Laurel on May the 5th in a state-sired allowance race. He hustled hard early to find position, but then he found great position, pressing an overmatched 18-1 shot who ended up backing out of it. He ran pretty well in this race, Mike. This is a step up in class, however.
He got a perfect trip in this race, and he did what he was supposed to do with it to get the job done. But I agree with you, Dan. I mean, I just feel like this is, this field just way tougher than the one that he just beat the last time he was on the flat. It kind of feels like he's going to need to run maybe the best race of his life if he's going to win here, but he is versatile. He could get another good trip in the end.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for our Wednesday race of the day. I don't want to take Huge Bigley, although I respect his speed at a short price. I just don't think he has such an edge over this field. Mike, you're going with Scano off the layoff. We talked about it. The layoff shouldn't be much of a concern, and I think he just fits with these class of horses.
I agree. I think they found a really good spot to bring him back in. And I just really like his running style more than anything else. And I think there is a chance that this pace could get a little competitive up front. He could be sitting right there when this field comes into the stretch. He just has to be ready off the bench.
I want to give Helium one more chance. He's got to go off at close to his morning line odds of 10-1 because maybe he just can't run anymore. But he's been good on dirt. He's been good on synth. His one turf race wasn't great, but it wasn't a complete disaster. I think he fits at this level, dropping all the way down to the 25. 5-6-3-4 for me, 3-1-6-7 for Mike in our Wednesday race of the day at Delaware Park. Good luck.